Very good. Well, again, my name is Richard Garriott. I'm a 30-year veteran of this industry, a Hall of Fame game designer, and I'm also one of the co-founders of Portalarium, and our goal is to revolutionize social media gaming. For those who don't know my career, I'm probably best known for developing a little game called the Ultima series. It was not only one of the very first ever role-playing games, but in its 20 years revolutionized, I would argue repeatedly, the state-of-the-art of role-playing games and solo-player games. I also developed Ultima Online, the very first big, successful, massively multiplayer game that drove the market to become tens of millions, which has been the bread and butter of the entire industry MMOs has been for the last decade or so. And we're here to do it again. And my team and I that built all those things you said, we've been together for about 30 years. We developed and or launched other things like the Wing Commander series, Sid Meier's Civilization. More recently, some big MMO titles like City of Heroes and Guild Wars were some of the things that we shipped. In addition to making great games, we have a great track record of creating exceptional value. We built Origin on only $70,000 and sold it to EA, and then grew it to where we had revenues in many hundreds of millions of dollars a year. We then repeated ourselves in the MMO space, starting with destination games. We sold to NCSoft, again developed revenue streams in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and now our management team's ready to do this for round 3 in social media. Our first original title is coming out here in about 2 months. It's called Ultimate Collector. We were just showing it a couple of nights ago at the tech evening. And by the way, I happen to personally be an ultimate collector. And I think of collecting as really right at the soul of what is already popular in social media. If you think of all the things that you do, it all involves collecting and sharing with your friends. So we made a game specifically about collecting where you can discover items, unlock their hidden attributes, build groups, build collections that you then get to turn in for score, sell, or in other ways share with your friends and family through the game itself. In addition, this has already proven to be so popular that we now have a television studio that wants to produce a film that is related to the game, so it's now a transmedia property. I was just up last week up at the Sci-Fi Channel where we have a pilot that's already been shot that we're now shopping around, and we'll show you a little clip from that, from Ultimate Collector.
Hi, I'm Richard Garriott, and welcome to my world.
So of all the stuff I collect, probably the hardest to find is shrunken heads. This is a vampire hunting kit. This is a solid state testicoil that generates a frequency of electricity that's not the final possession of the object, which is so paramount. It's the hunt, the acquisition, the study, and the sharing. And the hunt will continue forever. And so Cineflix, our partner in creating this, they already have a bunch of very successful reality shows out, including American Pickers is probably one of their most popular one. But our home run as a company is actually what we're doing after this first original title. That's Lord British's New Britannia, the full-blown role-playing game that we're now starting under my leadership. Just like I've reinvented RPGs a number of times in the past, if you think about reinventing them again and you want to bet on somebody, I think I'm a pretty good bet. I mean, if you look at the industry average, there's about 10 profitable titles out of 1,000 released in a year. That's a 1% hit ratio in our industry. Most great companies like EA have about a 20% hit ratio. My personal hit-miss ratio is well over 70%. So if you're going to back a horse, I think I can prove that I'm one of the best horses to back. My vision for role-playing games to this day remains unique, though there's plenty of other games out there these days. It's only my games where in the role-playing games there's lots of roles to play that are not combat. And if you look at, for example, what's already proven to be popular in social media, farming, fishing, retailing, homesteading, crafting, and pets, those are all things that were pioneered by my game, Ultima Online, but are now selling as individual slices in social media. So if there's anybody who's going to unify this back into a single experience again, I think it's pretty easy to say that it's me. And in fact, EA hasn't even been able to make another Ultima without me. As a company, we've already secured our first round of seed financing. We've developed our technology, deployed it on Facebook, High Five, and other media. I've mentioned our first original title in the second game we have in development. And where we are now is we're going to try to close our Series A round of about $5 million. And I hope you guys want to be a part of it.
Thank you very much. So that's you. I'm going to have some questions. I know it's after lunch and everybody now wants to go to bed, but we clapped and we're done, so that's good. So what we have right now, so just as a point of clarification, I will not be voting in this round because 8 years ago I wrote a book about Richard, so I feel like that might be wrong.
Come on, vote.
Yeah, right. I will be moderating, but I won't be voting. So, Mark, why don't you tell me what your thoughts were after the presentation?
One of the things that I really look for in an investment is domain knowledge. And obviously you have domain knowledge in spades. That's phenomenal. It would be sort of foolish for me to try and comment about whether or not the category that you're in, to really peel back the onions and say how that's going to perform. Obviously, if I spent time with you, I might know better. But my instinct for Ultimate Collector is it feels like a very well-designed, it feels like a very good target market because the idea of collections not only strikes at the chord of, I think, how U.S. consumers behave, why the eBay culture was created, but it seems very close to monetization, right? So I like that kind of tie-in. I guess I'd be interested in just hearing from you how you think about customer acquisition. How do you break out from the noise other than capital? I mean, I see so many companies that are going into social gaming whose premise is, well, we're going to build this great game and people are going to come, maybe don't have an appreciation for what Zynga did to become successful in the first place, the fact that they were early, the fact that they bought up all the ad inventory, the fact that they were able to pay higher prices than other people, the fact that Facebook hadn't clamped down on the rules of how to spam people back then. What is your strategy for driving customer other than product, which I'll take as read is going to be
and by the way, I think your instinct is quite right. Product, at some core level, I'm a believer that great products find a way to find a market regardless. However, the time of Zynga having the free ride to be able to build their market is now, as you've noted, past. And the only way to really, if you're going to compete with Zynga completely independently, you would have to buy those customers. And while that's in theory plausible, that's a pretty tough road to hoe these days. So we're looking at it through a whole variety of strategic partners. Not only are we looking for, in addition to what I'll call an investor group to come with what I'll call just cash, we're also looking for strategic partners. And groups like High Five and even some of what you might consider our competitors, we're already now talking to for strategic distribution partnerships. In addition, things like that Cineflix movie television tie, we are looking for product ties that also help us reach a broader audience. As a hypothetical, because of my personal collecting, I'm a regular on the Martha Stewart show, actually, of these days. Right. Because every time she comes up with another aspect of collecting she wants to show, I have that collection, so I go on her show to show it. So she would be a logical target for us from what I'll call a media reach to not only put her and her collections in our game also, but then use her to leverage to find customers.
Awesome, and I just want to be sure to save time for questions down here.
Cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to thank you for eating up thousands of hours of my junior high years as I tried to win Ultima 1 through 4. I got through all of them except for 2, and I never could solve that one.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, and maybe blame you for my social life back then too, right? But anyway.
Yeah, sorry about that part.
Just question around the business model. Obviously, the Zynga business model is well known, right? Free to play. Virtual goods, depending on a small number of users who are going to pay. I mean, is that your target with the collectibles? What are your thoughts around how that starts?
It's really interesting when you think about this new space that sometimes people use the word social, sometimes people use the word casual. Here is my thing that I believe is key about how and why we've moved from solo player games that sold millions to massively multiplayer that sold tens of millions to now social or casual, however you want to call it, that is now going to be reaching hundreds of millions. In my mind, that free-to-play is essential. It used to be, for both solo and multiplayer games, you had to go to the store, pay $50 up front, and in the case of MMOs, you even had to subscribe for 10 to 20 bucks a month before you could even start playing. And even then, the games were so complex, you had to spend 2 to 5 hours investing in it before you even knew if you'd like it, really, if you were a casual player. I think that's now dead. The future of that is dead. You have to make it as easy to get as I send you an email link, you click on it, and it starts playing immediately, streaming in the background, or such a quick download, it's irrelevant. and then only after you're playing it do we find a way to monetize. So we have a variety of monetization strategies, whether it's after a certain number of hours of play or limited edition digital objects, et cetera, of the variety of games we're doing. Specifically for Ultimate Collector, it is in that you can go through what I'll call garage sales or low-level stuff all for free, but as you want to finish out your collection and you need that special shrunken head that even to research it and find out how special it is and if it's really worth what you're being asked for, that either takes time or friends or money, which is one of the traditional ways of monetizing for Ultimate Collector.
I'm curious what intellectual property you might have here in terms of the gameplay. There's been so much kind of copying back and forth between a lot of the companies in the social gaming space. I'm wondering if you have anything that prevents one of the big companies from just copying what you have.
Yes, and so I quite agree, and that's actually one of the things that I think is true as a problem for what I'll call extraordinarily simple games, farming and shop tending, these things in what we'll call isolation as individual games. Those are very easily copied, and that has been the foundational business model of a number of the current big players, is just to implement and then out-market or out-push. But the counter to that is that what I'm best known for is truly creating intellectual property. And the intellectual properties that I've created have never been duplicated, not only by my own companies, or the companies I sold my companies to, but frankly, even other developers. If you look at the continuum of role-playing games, I would argue, for example, in the massively multiplayer space, that everyone else is doing EverQuest through Worlds of Warcraft, and Ultima Online remains unique. And it's not just because of those roles, it's also because of the deep story and other attributes that goes behind it, the languages that are built into it, the history of the cultures that are built into it. And so even in collecting, so that'll be absolutely true for Lord British's New Britannia. I think nobody would doubt that. But we're also doing that in Ultimate Collector by bringing out what I'll call the personalities of collectors like me, and even through our ties with Cineflix, the whole popularity of a lot of these reality shows is all based around character and persona and interaction with story. And so beyond just gameplay, there is also story, which is hard to replicate.
Cool. So awesome background. I'm interested, why do you want to win? Why do you want to do this? First question. And second, your target audience seems different for the collector game and Lord British game.
There is, first I'll answer your second question first. There is a different audience for these two games. The collecting game is headed into what I will call the core of today's demographic of social media. The Lord British's New Britannia is where I believe all this audience is in fact heading. I believe I can not only bring a pretty good percentage of my old fans across, of which I still have millions of fans waiting to see what I do next, but more importantly, I believe it is where the evolution of social media is headed, is into these deeper, more intellectual property-based experiences, and so that's why it's a little later. On your second half of why do I want to win this, I'm an Austinite. I've to a large degree founded the games industry here in Austin, Texas.
Not win South Bay, but why do you want to go do another company?
Why do I want to do another company?
Yeah.
Because games are in my blood. This is what I do. I mean, I've been, I started into this industry as one of the very first people in the industry, but I have never lost the passion for making games. So I wouldn't know what to do with myself if I wasn't making games.
Go to space. Go to space.
I do go on little vacations, little unusual vacations.
So let me ask, because the last time we talked, you were working on a game, and I can't remember which one it was, but you had languages, and it was really complex, and you were making your own sort of like, it was going to be Tolkien-esque. Yep. This seems completely different than that.
Well, the Ultimate Collector is completely different from the games I've done in the past. However, I'm still a great representative of it in the sense of I really am one of the ultimate collectors on Earth. Have you been to my house? I don't know if you've been there.
I have not.
But you can come by.
Not.
Well, come on by.
Halloween. Just
because my Texas home really is nothing but a showcase for collections, and so even though it's radically different than other games I've been involved in, it as per the television show, the reason why they were interested in it is because I represent it so well.
It just seems like, you have I wasted my life playing these games too. This seems different. It seems, so why do you think that the people that have played these games before will come to these simple kinds of games? It seems like a different audience.
Well, what's interesting about people who are often challenged on do these ultra-light casual players, are they real gamers? A lot of developers go, oh, I don't want to develop them because they're not hardcore games, they're not games I want to play. And frankly, I don't play very much of Farmville. However, if you look at the arc, Farmville is a lot less sophisticated than Frontierville, which is less sophisticated than Cityville. And if you look at that arc and you drag it forward very far, you very quickly realize that even these new class of players who don't call themselves gamers, but are playing 40 hours a week in these games, they are hardcore gamers. They just aren't willing to admit it to themselves yet. And they didn't used to care about user interface and graphical quality, but they are. And the thing that has changed in my mind, there are some things that have changed fundamentally, which is really just user interface and ease of access. And that's what we'll provide them also.
Thank you. We are out of time.